Advanced art. Okay, so I wanted to create this video to basically give you an introduction on our first project, which is the hands project. And I'm pretty sure most of you know that going to be our first project since we already started it last week. Last week, we basically started the very beginning stages of a project. So whenever we do a project, you're going to have your beginning stages, which incorporate maybe learning a new skill. Almost every time we're going to go through some sort of rough draft, which is basically a practice. So for this project, you already completed your 3 rough drafts. The reason why we do rough drafts is because a lot of times we just need that familiarity before we start our final draft. So it's good for practice. It's good to get our minds kind of set on how a hand is constructed. And it's good to notice our weaknesses and to notice things that we need to work on before we start the final draft. A couple things that I noticed people were having a little bit of trouble with was shading. So we're going to go through a little bit of a value tutorial. That's going to help you kind of visualize and understand how to shade in certain lights and darks in your drawings. It's called value mapping, which we'll talk about. So we'll go through that before we get to the actual shading of our final draft. The other thing is when people were taking photographs, one thing I noticed was that the angle in which you take your picture can really affect the way that it looks, especially when you just draw the outline of your hand. So sometimes when you draw the outline and you haven't quite gotten to the shading yet, it doesn't quite look the way you think it should. But in reality, you might be more accurate than you think. There's one thing in art that can be used in a really good way, and then there's another thing in art that can be kind of confusing when it comes to proportion and getting the sizing right, and that's called foreshortening. So I just want to show you really quick. So what foreshortening means. Foreshortening, does everyone see my fist? You see how my fist is bigger than my head? Okay, well, in reality, my head is much bigger than my fist, right? This is called foreshortening. And what that means is if I were to do a drawing right now, if I took a screenshot of my little webcam at the bottom, if I drew that on paper, I would draw my fist bigger than my head. Well, the problem with that is people don't like doing that because they know in their mind, they know that the head is bigger than the fist. Well, obviously the reason why it looks like that is because it's a foreshortening. It means that my fist is much closer to the eye or to the camera in this case than my head is. So if you take your hand, for example, you see how funny that angle looks? It looks funny because it makes my fingers look really long and my palm look really small. If you take your hand and you photograph it much flatter, it's going to look a lot more accurate. So when you do take pictures, try to think about that. And you want to try to make sure that you're not like angling your hand too far away from the eye or anything like that. Now, I will say, if you do it that way, you can get some really cool effects, but really it's going to come down to your shading. So I know a lot of times the drawing looks funny, but really you just haven't quite gotten far enough into it to make it look realistic. Okay, so let's get down to your hand project, and I put this week's folder at the very bottom. By the time you watch this video, it's going to be at the top. I just put it down here to not distract anybody. So this folder is going to look just like it has in the past. You have your week at a glance. If you have questions, obviously leave them here. You have your instructions, tutorials, and turn in my artwork. So the tutorial folder, it has these 3 links, and sometimes it's not going to pop up right here, so you have to click the link again. That basically just opens it as a separate window. But you have these 3 links, and let me go to tutorials. And by the time you watch this video, so it should be like August 31st, maybe September 1st, you're going to notice that this video is also linked into this folder. And you're also going to have a demonstration of how to start the final draft. All right, so let's just take a look really quick. So the project that we're doing is you are going to pick, this is one of my favorites, you are going to pick one of the perspectives of your hand. If you decide that after you do the rough drafts, maybe you just don't really like any of them, so you want to just take a new one, that's fine. You can do that. And you, by the way, if you do that, you do not have to do another rough draft. All right, the rough drafts are more just for general practice of drawing hands. So what you're going to do is you're going to pick one of your rough drafts. So if you look at this girl's painting or picture, sorry, her drawing, her name was Alyssa. And Alyssa, what she did was she took her hand and she drew it nice and balanced in the middle of the page. All right, now you're probably going to notice, especially if you did the balance and emphasis sketchbook this week, you learned a little bit about emphasis and contrast and balance, obviously. So what she did was she drew her hand right in the middle, okay, or, pretty close to the middle. And then she changed the art medium. Okay, so art medium is the material, the utensils that you use. So she did colored pencil and then graphite on the outside. Pretty cool. And then what that does is it creates emphasis. It emphasizes the hand. All right. So for this project, there's only two options. Option number one is you can do the entire thing with graphite pencil. That's going to be mostly for our e-learners, okay, which I should say remote learners, right? So if you're at home and you do not have access to colored pencils, I do not want you at all to feel like you have to go out and buy them. It is recommended. I mean, if you would like to go out and purchase, they're called Prisma colored pencils. I'll actually put a little optional materials supply list if you'd like to go out and get some. But what we don't want to do is we don't want to cause any stress or strain on your parents to go out and get you supplies. Okay, so the entire project, perfectly fine, 0-point deduction if you do all pencil. Okay, it's totally fine. So what you're going to do, you have two things that you need to do before you start the final draft. Number one, you need the hand reference. So you need the photograph of your hand. Number two is you need to find a natural background. So what do I mean by natural? I mean anything that grows. Okay, so a natural background. I don't want you to do a brick background. If you do bricks are not, they're from natural resources, but it's not a natural background. Okay, those are man-made. So what I would like you to do is choose a natural background. It could be leaves, it could be branches, it could be sticks. You could do some sort of landscape if you'd really like to. Personally, I don't think it turns out as well. But I'm going to go ahead and show you a couple different examples. And so for this project, you have the option of doing it all in pencil, or you could do colored pencil for part of it and then pencil for the other part. Oftentimes what students will do is they will do, and you want it to be balanced. So if you do use colored pencil, you want an even amount of colored pencil versus an even amount of graphite. So what a lot of students do is they end up, I'll show you this little box trick in my in the actual final draft demo. But what students do is they do this box and it creates this cool little like window effect where you have this contrast between color and black and white. So they'll do all this in color, or you could do it backwards. You could do everything that's pencil in this picture. She could have done it in this colored pencil and then made everything inside pencil. So you can flip it around. Let me show you a couple examples. This one was really nice. So she did like lily pads, and then she had her hands holding a flower, which was really cool. Notice that there is some foreshortening. When she first drew this, it didn't quite look right. Let me get rid of that. But when she colored and shaded it in, it ended up looking really cool. Let me show you. This one was nice. She probably could have, I think she actually layered up her colored pencils a little bit too much in the middle to the point where she couldn't really fix it. But you can see her thumb and pinky are very accurate. Her palm is nice and accurate. And then her background is really cool with these different types of flowers. let's take a look at, so this girl, a very gifted art student. She was probably one of the better art students that I've had in my first 6 years. Very talented, obviously she's a very accurate drawer. But just to give you an idea, if you notice, she actually chose this background with all these different flowers, and it turned out really nice. And so the hand was all done in pencil, or sorry, colored pencil. She did a very accurate color scheme. So this is like skin tones, things like that. And then everything around it was done in pencil. Notice that she didn't have the box. Okay, you don't need the box. That's all optional. This student, also another very accurate drawer, one of my better drawing students that I think I've ever had. He chose to do a rock background. Okay, so again, very natural. He did his just like the last girl, except kind of backwards, right? So the hand was in pencil, the background was in color. So really, no matter how you do this, there are a lot of really good options. So this girl chose some leaves with different colors in them, mainly monochromatic, which means one color. It's mainly used with different shades of red. But again, she did the hand in pencil, the background in colored pencil. And yeah, you can see a couple. So she got kind of creative with like this galaxy theme. She decided to do a landscape. Landscapes are fine. They look cool. This girl, hers turned out really nice too. One thing that I want you to kind of stray away from is all of this flat background. Okay, the picture actually looks very nice, and she did a nice job overall. But what I would probably encourage you to stay away from is a lot of this negative space back here, where she just colored it in one flat color. Like I said, it looks nice, but for the purpose of the project, this one, she ended up choosing a marine landscape. So instead of doing this huge like open field or open whatever, she decided to kind of take a close-up of this marine life, all these different like reefs and corals and whatever. My marine life terminology is not very good, but that's what she decided to do. She even did her bracelet in color. Thought that was cool. But notice how bold everything is. Everything is very bold. It's rich. She really kind of layered up her colored pencils, and that's going to be another part of the demo that you'll see later on. So here's another example. This girl, another very talented student, she decided to do her hands very natural, the background, all in graphite. And she actually chose, I'm pretty sure she chose multiple references for the background. So she chose like one reference for all these white flowers. And then behind that, she chose another reference and basically just layered it up. So it turned out pretty sweet. Okay. So hopefully that gives you a pretty good idea of what we're doing. The demonstration video is going to show you not what we're doing, but how to do it. So hopefully that helps. Let's just take a look really quick at this week's Week at a Glance. All right, so if I open up the link, there are going to be some more links added after I make all these videos. But if you open up the Week at a Glance, hopefully you guys enjoy the new format. I tried to just spice it up a little bit. So on Monday, our rough drafts are due. There's going to be a link right here to the video that you just watched. You're going to collect materials and references. If you are in person, I will have some paper available to you. If you're a remote learner, you are totally fine doing this out of a paper or out of a page in your sketchbook. Your sketchbook paper is probably a high enough quality to do pencil and colored pencil. I think that's good for materials. And then make sure to save your references in your Google Drive. So when you start looking up ideas, you want to start thinking about what type of natural background do I need? When you find one, just save it into your Google Drive. And the other thing is you can save more than one. So don't think that you have to narrow it down to just one. You could find 3 that you really like and then just go from there. Just save all of them. And then later on, you can pick which one you like. Make sure, obviously, we already talked about saving your hands. Tuesday is going to be Tutorial Tuesday. So if you need a little bit of a review, let's just say, I know a lot of you are probably watching a lot of videos, including this one, and you're thinking like, another video, great. Well, maybe you need a little review. You could watch the video and then begin working on your final draft. What will also be in here, I'll actually add this, is your final draft demo. And there will be a link to my next video right here. Workday Wednesday, workday Thursday, workday Friday. So hopefully you guys like that. 3 consecutive work days. That's going to give you a lot of time to get the ball rolling on this project. On Friday, though, you do have that sketchbook assignment number 2 completed. All right. If you forget how to upload that, I'll also post a little link down here to help you out with that. So if you have any questions, feel free to email me. Hopefully you guys are excited about this first project. Hopefully you're as excited as I am, because I'm excited to see what you guys can do. So like I said, hopefully you guys don't have too many questions. If you do, obviously feel free to ask, and I will get back to you soon. And let's have a good week. All right, thanks.